But even harder is to follow Taylor Swift after her concert last night. How many went? Look at all that. Wow, Taylor Swift was in the house, 64,000 people. Taylor Swift is the premier love storyteller of our time, you know. She just puts it out so clearly. He says to her, "You're gorgeous." And she says, "Are you ready for it?" He says, "You're beyond my wildest dreams," she said. "I knew you were trouble." He says to her, "You belong with me." And she says, "I don't want to live forever." He says, "There's bad blood between us." And she says, "Shake it off." He says, "Begin again." She says, "Love story." Taylor Swift, wise lady. Those were all Taylor Swift songs, by the way. Right? Thank you. All right. I tried. So, keynote. There we go. We are near the ending of, I think, one of the most exciting series we've done, and that is the I Am series. Jesus telling us about himself using the I Am, which is the same way his father told Moses about himself. When Moses said, "What's your name?" he says, "I am." When people say to Jesus, "Who are you?" he says, "I am." What did he say? "I'm the door, protecting the sheep. I am the good shepherd, leading the sheep. I am the resurrection, hope for our eternity." And who could forget last week with that bread baking? "I am the bread of life." I mean, that stuff would put it out on the table in the back in the fellowship hall. It was gone in a second. He is our sustenance. We have one more after this, but today I get to do not a one and not a two, but a three-fer. I am the way. Jesus says, "I am the truth, and I am the life." And I want to get to the text that this comes from, but I want to set the context that it's within by telling you a little story about a manager for a baseball team. How many are familiar with Bobby Valentine? Bobby Valentine was a coach of the Mets a couple decades ago. He was coaching the team toward the playoffs. It was a big extra innings matchup with the Blue Jays. The teams were tied 3-3 in the top of the 12th. A call was made. Bobby got furious about it, ran out and argued with the referee, the umpire, and found himself ejected just when his team needed him. You know, all those careful decisions you have to make when you're down to the end of a game like that. And there's no coach to be found, no manager. Except that cameras worked their way back to the dugout a little later, and there was a man kind of standing in the background. They hadn't seen him before, a mustache and dark glasses. Yes, Bobby Valentine had put on a disguise and snuck back into the dugout to coach the rest of the game. They won. He was fined $5,000. I don't know if the team could have won without him, but there's always that fear, right? Someone's been coaching you, leading you, guiding you all this time, helping you make the right decisions, and then they're gone. Now think of the disciples. The disciples are hearing from Jesus sort of a farewell message in the gospel today. Jesus is going to get thrown out on his own as he goes to the cross, and they're going to be on their own right there in the top of the 12th without him. They're nervous. They're concerned, they're worried, they're anxious. And you might feel that sometimes too, because he doesn't feel with you at your top of the 12th times in life. Let's hear what Jesus has to say.
Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going." Thomas said to him, "Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way?" Jesus answered, "I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really knew me, you would know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him." Philip said, "Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us." Jesus answered, "Don't you know me, Philip, even after I've been among you such a long time? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Don't you believe that I am in the Father, and that the Father is in me? The words I say to you are not just my own. Rather, it is the Father living in me who's doing his work. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, or at least believe on the evidence of the miracles themselves. I tell you the truth. Anyone who has faith in me will do what I've been doing. He will do even greater things than these, because I'm going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Son may bring glory to the Father. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it."
There's some basic questions that we ask in life. One is, where are we supposed to go? What's our direction? To that, Jesus answered, simple, I am the way. I am the way. A question, what are we supposed to believe? Simple answer, I am the truth. I am the truth. And the question, what are we supposed to do? Simple answer, I am the life. I am the life. The answer to our deepest questions, and it's the conviction of Christians, is Jesus. What he said, what he did, who he was, all in one. Jesus. The answer to our questions. Where do we go? Jesus knows the way. What do we believe? Jesus has the truth. What are we supposed to do? Live the life that Jesus lived as best as we can in the power of the Spirit. Let's look at those three. Anybody familiar with John Martin? John Martin was fishing along the Alaska coast a couple of weeks ago. I think fishing in the Keys would be more pleasant, but apparently he chose to fish off the Alaska coast. And he got a little bold and he decided, you know what, I'm gonna not just fish along the coast, I'm gonna push out into open water and see my luck. Well, his luck wasn't great because he found himself on a 3-hour tour. The weather, it started getting rough. The tiny ship was tossed, if not for the courage of the fearless crew. The minnow would be lost. When he hit land, he found himself not exactly where he wanted to be. Yes. Welcome, comrade, to Russia. It's been 3 weeks since he's enjoyed the hospitality of our friends across the ocean. You can see it from here. But they're taking good care of him, they say. And they're cautioning us that he has a flu, but he is using the time wisely to learn Russian. Maybe not a bad idea. The kind of sad thing about this is Martin indicates that it was in the back of his mind that not to see Russia at all, but to take the boat to China. To China. Good luck. People find themselves lost today. They find themselves in places they never intended to end up. Again and again were the prodigal son in the pigsty saying, how did this happen? And it's understandable because there are so many choices, so many paths that we can take in life, so many ways that we can go. Now, it's been a little easier for some of us because we now have our phones to tell us where to go. Has anybody found lately that they were somewhere unfamiliar and they didn't have their phone? You're all good. Because I'm wondering what will happen to some of us if, for some reason, our phone won't tell us where to turn. It's been so long since I've pulled a map out. Does anybody have maps in their cars? And so we're now really dependent on this tool to find our way. And that's nice, except that really in life we don't have a phone to navigate our way. The choices never end. I think about the kids heading back to college right now. All the choices ahead of them. All the choices. Which way should I go? What direction? And we would like to give it to them if they would listen. At the other hand, we have to admit that they have choices we never had. That we don't really even know what would it mean to go down that path. And so even if they were ever, shockingly, to ask our directions, we might say, I don't know. I'm still figuring this thing out myself. Now, this wasn't the truth, wasn't the situation just a few generations ago. You say, what's the way for me to follow in my life? It was pretty simple. Actually, very simple. Men, you did what your dad did. Women, you did what your mom did. It was pretty simple. How many of you are doing what your dad did today? Anybody doing what their mom did? Not many. It's just not the same world. And the chances are that our kids won't be able to raise their hand either, which means they're going to make lots of their own choices and do it in very different ways. But here's the hitch. How do we know what the right way is of all the choices we have to make? Some would say it doesn't really matter. Follow your bliss. Just follow your heart. But I don't think hearts are all that reliable. They get us into trouble all the time. How do we know what the right way for our life is? The compass points to love in the Christian faith. See, I don't know what kind of job you're supposed to get. If you're aiming for college right now and you're looking for that future. I don't know what exactly you should do if your job's shaky right now. I don't exactly know, except going to John's conference, what you should do if your marriage needs healing. I can't answer all of your directional questions, but I can say you cannot get lost if you love. You simply cannot lose if you love. If at the end of the life that God gives you, short or long, your tombstone can say, he loved, or she loved, you simply cannot lose. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what impact that you make. It doesn't matter how famous you get. It doesn't matter what happens. The final evaluation, and I'm not saying God's, because God's final evaluation has been made on the cross. He's already said he loves us. The final thing about our life is, did we love? You simply cannot go wrong if you do. And I don't just mean romantically. That's certainly part of it, but more importantly, did you love with your heart, soul, mind, and strength? Did you love sacrificially? Did you seek to live a life that was for others, not in codependency? Sometimes to love another person is to say no, right? Did you love? Did you love? Are you loving? Are you loving? And if you say, I'm not good at it, you say, all right, that's a good place to start. Let's learn to love. Let's remind each other of love. Let's love each other so we can love the world. The only reason we should consider today a partnership with Living Word Church is love. Will that partnership help us to share more love in new places with new people? That's the question. Love. Now, when it comes time to truth, one thing we're finding today is a confusion over truth. And actually, this has been coming now for a few generations. The modern era was characterized by a long stretch of time where the scientific method gave us sort of confidence that things could be proven to be objectively true. This is true, this is true, this is true. How do I know it's true? We did the experiments, we figured it out, it's true. That characterized the modern era. That's where all of our great inventions, all of our great improvements in civilization occurred. Some of our terrible evils also occurred during that time. But truth was fairly agreed upon, objectively speaking. We were no longer superstitious. We had truth. But something has happened in the last generation or so, and that is we're not quite so sure if what we thought was true is true. And in fact, in order to get along with people that are different from us and come from different backgrounds and different thoughts, we've started to say, well, I'll tell you what, here's what we'll do. Your truth is your truth. You can have it, and my truth is my truth. And your truth, they're true for you. And now everybody has an opinion. Have you noticed? Everybody. And it's interesting that opinion has now become more significant than truth. Partly because we're having a hard time wrestling with it. We can't even agree on the basics. But one thing psychologists have found is once you've made your mind up on an issue, it's pretty hard for that to change. With all the truths coming at you, if you've clarified for yourself one thing, I believe this one thing, then put your head in the sand, don't listen anymore. Just for self-preservation's sake. So that's what a lot of us are doing. We say, I made my mind up, I'm done. Don't confuse me with the facts. I just can't take it anymore. Understandable. So much truth out there. So much. And so hard to know. Right now, we're in just a sea of truth and falsehood. So Jesus makes it really simple. Very simple. He says, the truth is, believe in me. Believe in me. What did I do? What did I say? Who was I? Who am I now? Believe in me. Believe in me. In fact, I don't want to be too simplistic about it because some of you may not have a close relationship with Christ, and that is great. We're glad you're here. You're exploring. You're thinking about it. That's wonderful. But if you're pretty convinced in this Jesus thing, in a way, life gets easier. Not simpler, but easier. Because answers become one-word answers. What is the meaning of life? Jesus. Here, I'll quiz you. What is the purpose of life? Where do I find my identity? How do I know my nature? How do I know I'm loved? How do I know there's a plan for me? How do I know I matter? How do I know there's hope? It's not too hard when you start there. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to do our work. We have to get to know Jesus more. He knows us already. To get to know him. But if we know him, I'm convinced that choices become easier to make. Truth becomes something a little different. We may not know the truth about everything in the world, but we know the capital T truth that we need to know. He came, he loved, he died, he saved. He rose again. And once we got that kind of straight, kind of flows from there. Nice to know, isn't it? The name. The name gets us to the right spot for the truth. And He will help us discern truth. And by the gift of His Holy Spirit, help us to worship in truth and to live in truth. He is the way, He is the truth, and He is the life. He is the life. We have lots of choices for our lifestyles today. All sorts of choices. In fact, one thing that's happened in our culture now is that the monolithic groups of people have really broken down. You know, you don't belong to a group that's, a third of the country anymore, you know. There aren't these wide bodies of people that you can say, if I'm part of this group, we pretty much share the same things. It's now down to like this. Doing demographic research, they have like 36 different market segments in our country, and you can take the 36 and each of them have like 6 within it. And even then you can tell when you read them that there's still room for other people to make choices. They call it the tribalization of our country. Tribes. We're joining tribes. Tribes of people, which is easier online now, that we have a lot in common with. But it's a smaller group of people, a smaller belonging, a sense of belonging. And we have so many choices as to which tribe we would wish to belong to. We can join a tribe by how we wear our clothes. We can join a tribe by what aspirations we have, join a tribe by what kind of hobbies we have, and we can join a tribe by our politics. We can join a tribe by where we live. There's so many ways that we can choose, and each tribe has its own kind of idea of what are the right things to do within our tribe. There's so many choices one can make. And you may not, but if you think about it, you probably have selected a tribe. You probably have picked a group that you say, within this, I know who I am, and I know what to do. Well, there's this one tribe that we, that tribalism leads to a certain lifestyle, which is then whatever you think, whatever you do, I'll do what I want. I'll do what I want. I'll do what I want. Within my tribe, within my segment of the population, my own lifestyle is my own business. But one would have to ask, how's that working for you? Are all these choices, all these freedoms, and all the decisions we make really turning out to be helpful? A lot of times, no. These tribes are new creations, so many of them that they're a hodgepodge of values and visions that don't even match up, and people who are part of them oftentimes feel like they belong, but they belong to a train wreck. How's it working for us to just pick our own way, to take that freedom all the way past what anyone ever thought we could? Again, Christianity, rather big tribe, has kind of an answer for that too. What is the life that you should live? What's the life that we should choose? He says, just keep doing what I was doing. You keep doing what I was doing. That means you love. That means you sacrifice. That means you heal. And you teach, and you care, and you welcome the children to you, and you touch the lepers. You forgive and forgive and forgive. You seek peace. You feed the poor. Keep doing what I was doing. It's our tribe. Our tribe. And just naming yourself as a Christian is a start, but doing what he was doing is really kind of the point. And this is what he's saying to the disciples. Just keep doing what I was doing. Just keep doing it. And they found it liberating. They found it exciting. They found it so beautiful that when they were given the choice to keep doing what he was doing or do something else, they rather die than not do what he was doing. There were people, and there are today, still people that would rather die than not love. They would rather die than not say, I believe in Jesus Christ. They would rather die because other lives just don't work out. And this one does. This one has an end that is beautiful and promising. Keep doing what he was doing. Follow his path. Follow his way, his truth. And you'll have a life not just to look forward to when this one's over, but one right now that's abundant and beautiful. Jesus helps us in this time of confusion. He's the way, the truth. He's the life. Amen.